morning, everybody. I thought that would be a nice way to open the meeting. It would put smiles on people's faces. I thought the whole coverage of the naming ceremony and everything was awesome. Imagine having Gary Barlow in Southampton. But anyway, I thought it was super, and the music on that video and the pictures just gives me goosebumps. But anyway, so that's a little bit different today. So good morning. We've got a good number of people in the meeting. That's wonderful. What we've got today is one of our networking meetings. So we've got lots of people speaking and lots of organisation in the background of getting the right people queued up at the right time. So I do have some Maritime UK updates for you, but I'll pick them up later on in the meeting. I think if you can just bear with me. Oh. Sorry, lost my running order because I got all excited about sharing a film. So the speakers that we've got today, we've got a variety of people with us today. We've got a couple of education providers and we've got a number of industry speakers. Later on, I will be running a little video from Bridge Mary School from the careers leader there. But we've also got Viking Maritime Group. Ken, our very own Ken, is going to talk to us about his organisation. We've got the 1851 Trust, and Becci's with us this morning, who's going to talk about their organisation and what they're doing, current projects, things that are coming up in the short to medium term. We've got Laura Watford joining us just after 9:30 for 10 minutes from an organisation called STEMunity, who support STEM teachers in schools to help them share that message. We've got John with us this morning from Griffon Hoverwork. I'm really excited about that. I don't know a huge amount about that organisation. I'm really looking forward to finding out a bit more. And Gosport and Fareham Multi-Academy Trust have also got an update for us. So packed meeting as ever. I think what I will do, if we're ready to go, is to hand straight over to Ken Hickling to be our first speaker. Morning, Ken.
Morning, everybody. I think I'm not on mute, so that's a good start. I've even looked up how to run a video because I've got a video as well, but no sound, so that's good. So I'm a non-executive director, which means I don't work full-time for Viking. Viking is a company comprised of 3 divisions or units, businesses if you like, within the Viking Maritime Group. The core of it is Viking Crew. I suppose I could point, but it's a virtual background, so it doesn't work. Viking Crew is focused on crew placement. In fact, everything that Viking does is centered around crew and seafarers. Viking Crew will match candidates with jobs, basically. It's an interesting place to work in that respect because you have 2 customers. You have the candidate who's looking for the job, who's a customer, and you have the employer who's also looking to get the position filled. So you have a double customer. We've been doing that for over 30 years. We found that we were able to do more than that. So we were able to manage people's crew deployment. We were able to get them to places. So we have effectively a travel division, but we call it deployment. And also we were able to take care of people's payroll, seamen's employment agreements, SEAs, which is how they're contracted for employment. And also to basically help them with a whole load of HR things. So our longest standing customer is Holland America Line in the cruise industry. One of our most recent customers is Scenic out of Australia. And we have others like Seabourn and Virgin Voyages. So a lot of that is what you would call export, even though we're not exporting goods. And we were putting a lot of these seafarers onto training courses here and there particularly for their STCW, their 4-part basic. And we decided that rather than give that to other people, we would build our own training centre. So we built one in Dover. We'll see some details of that in the video. And that cost us about 3.5 million to build. And then more recently, we built a simulator training centre just north of Portsmouth in the lakeside. It's the same facility that the Solent LEP is based in. And we do advanced training there. Again, we'll see some of that in the video. So training. It's still an export business, it seems, because a lot of people fly in, well, not so much these days, but they still can. Easy jet flights and all the rest of it into Gatwick, and it's about an hour and a bit to either the Lakeside facility here in Solent area or to Dover, depending on what they're being trained on. And then lastly, there's Chiltern, the third part of it. Chiltern manages Merchant Navy cadets. Cadets are training to be officers. They spend 3 years in any of the 6 colleges, maritime colleges around the UK. But somebody has to look after their pocket money. They are effectively on an apprenticeship program, but they're given a bursary, and they're paid that bursary on a monthly basis. Somebody has to go out and find them their berthing if they are not specifically cadets for a given shipping line. And there's a lot of cadets supported by organisations like Trinity House. So we find the berthing for them on vessels, all sorts of vessels, for their at-sea period. They're on a 7-month, 5-month split year training. And that's Chiltern's business. So that's enough about the 3 businesses that comprise Viking. I'm happy to take questions at the end, but what I'm going to do now is to see if I can share a video, which I've teed up and hopefully runs. I'm running it without sound, so I can talk over it. It's just nice music. So here's the Maritime Skills Academy. I'm running it without sound. I've got sound at my end, but I'm going to dial it down. Here's where we do the training for STCW4 Part Basic. So this is survival skills. We're throwing people in the water. We're putting them in boats that we then invert, and they have to climb out from underneath. All of this training is instructor-led training. It can't be done in sort of teach yourself over distance, although we do have some online courses that are now MCA approved. Here we're now switching the view to Lakeside, where we have built a bridge inside a sort of a wraparound IMAX. So if you come there, we'll make you seasick. We'll make the sea move around. We'll give you bad weather. You can look at the wing stations for docking purposes. You can do the navigation. And basically, it's a fully functioning bridge inside an 8K cinema. We've also got an engine room. So it's a bit like Mission Control Houston. This is the instructor station where they observe what everybody's doing. They can look to make sure they're the right way. Back to Dover now. We're doing the firefighting training, which is again part of the STCW training. Incidentally, we do some of this for renewable energy customers as well. There's classroom training. Here we are with the medical side. This is that's the engine room there, which is again a fully functioning engine room. It uses Wärtsilä X Transas technology. We can also do hands-on high voltage, and you've got this kind of halo suite where you can walk around inside the cruise ship and go and fix the thing that needs fixing, fully interactive. And then finally down at Dover in the quay, we've got Ballast Quay, we have the ability to go out at sea and do fast rescue boat training and all the rest of it. So it's quite an array from basic training to very advanced bridge and engine room management training. And that's kind of the focus, if you like, of the Maritime Skills Academy, delivering an array of training. It's largely driven by regulations, but we like to think that we add a bit more in so that people come away having more than just ticked a box. They've actually learned something. The facility that you saw there briefly in Lakeside, that cost us just about £2 million to build, and we're now negotiating to add another 2 bridges in. The bridge we built had wing stations, very much passenger industry focused, so cruise ships like the Iona we just saw, ferries and super yachts, all classified as passenger. And the reason they love a wing station is, despite what you saw in the video, an awful lot of times they are docking themselves, whereas super tankers, big container ships and so on, they tend to always be docked by tugboats. So we were focused on the passenger side. We want to expand, so now we're putting in 2 tug bridges so that we can then reach out to people who want to be trained up in tug operation and refueling operations and things like that. So I think I've done my 5 minutes of chat, and if anybody's got any questions about That especially about the training. It's just one thing to clarify. We are not a college. We are a training provider. So we focus on short courses rather than long courses. And those longer courses are provided by colleges and institutions which do higher education. Everybody's gone quiet now.
That's super, thank you. What a fab video. And once we're back at Lakeside, Will and I'll come and have a visit and come and have a look round if that's okay.
You absolutely should come round, and we're happy to give anybody a walk round, really. We are COVID secure at the moment, but we are delivering courses in a COVID secure way. So even now, if you wanted to come round, that's fine. Yeah, we're very proud of the facility. And very happy to show it off. I know obviously there's lots of people literally just down the road in Portsmouth who could be quite interested in it. But if you're coming in from further afield and you've got half an hour to spare, then come on by. Fantastic.
So any questions for Ken?
There was one chat question from Mark Pemberton. He wants to get in touch with me. Okay, that's fine. Not an actual question. That's cool.
Have you noticed a difference in the number of people that are applying for training? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? Is it steady? Is it a constant kind of flow?
Well, okay, so there's the training that everybody has to do, the STCW 4-part basic. You have to do that to become a seafarer, and then 5 years later you have to do your renewals. So it was about 6 or so years ago that this really started to bite. So there is a bit of an upsurge at the moment. In fact, it hit last year, and we were in conversation with MCA saying, you've got all these people, they've got to renew. We've got to be able to deliver some of these things. How are we going to do it? So we sat with them and looked at how to deliver this training in a reasonably acceptable, COVID secure way. But also it gave an impetus to put some pressure behind MCA to look at what courses they could approve to be delivered virtually. They're still instructor led, and that's a core thing with this kind of training, but the instructor is like sitting like I am at a screen. So that's like, it's a steady thing, that STCW stuff. What we find with the more advanced training is it's linked to activity level in the industry. So the cruise industry, as we know, fell off a cliff in sort of this time last year, and it's only just now starting to get back rolling. There's a whole bunch of cruises to nowhere that are available because people don't want to be going in and out of other ports, because that's travel. But if you just cruise around, it's like a 3-day booze cruise on a big liner. You can take them out of Portsmouth. Virgin Voyages doing them, but other people elsewhere. They've got cruises in Asia and cruises in Australia doing exactly the same thing. As that activity has picked up, all the crew that some of the cruise lines had laid off is now being brought back in. The more sophisticated cruise lines are saying, okay, well, we need to refresh everybody. So in fact, our simulator center is booked solid till I think October now for bridge simulation training, ship handling courses, navigation courses, just to kind of brush up people's skills. The engineering side of it is less busy. It tends to always be less busy, but it's not really seen that surge in demand just yet.
And is it a naive question, so forgive me, but is it a mixture of individuals and their employers paying for the training?
Well, it's a good question, actually. So the very often the STCW 4-part basic is paid for by the individual. It is, if you like, it's the price of entry to become a seafarer. So people will invest in themselves. They'll go to places like ourselves, but we're not the only game in town. UKSA on the Isle of Wight is another example. There's probably a dozen or more training providers in the UK who can do the STCW training, and generally speaking, it costs less than £2,000, and it takes a week. Once you've got that certificate, you can then go and apply for a job on board a ship. And when I say a job on board a ship, it could be a dancer, but you're still a seafarer, and so you still need your STCW 4-part basic. When you get to the more advanced training, so the bridge management training that we do, the engine room management, and in fact the integrated vessel resource management, that tends to have to follow company procedures. So we're signing a contract with the employer, with the cruise line, the shipping line, because we're going to customize the training content to match their procedures. We also do emergency response. They call it command and control. I've got another video which I haven't teed up, but there's a guy desperately trying to wedge a mattress into a hole, and we've got about 4 tons of water that's being pumped through that hole, and he's trying to, so it's simulating a collision damage. And again, the procedures that you follow for that are company specific. So we tend, for the more advanced training, we tend to contract with the employer, but for the basic training, we tend to sell them, 1 can of beans at a time through our website to people who want to either update or begin their training.
Super, thank you. Any other questions for anybody before we move on to our next speaker? I can't see anything in the chat. We can always come back to that later. Ken, that was brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, our second speaker today is Becci, who's joining us from the 1851 Trust.
Hello.
Hi, Becci.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so I'll start off, I'll just give a quick summary of the trust and then talk to you about one of our programmes. So the 1851 Trust was set up by Sir Ben Ainsley, who is decorated Olympic sailor. And he set it up as he started his America's Cup campaign. And he realised that there was a shortage of talented British designers and engineers to support him with that campaign. So for those of you that don't know, the America's Cup is sort of the Formula One of sailing, so very much at the cutting edge of technology. And he needed, plenty of designers and engineers to support him with that. And the America's Cup is a trophy that has not been won by the British since 1851, so hence the name of the trust, still yet to be won. So since 2014, the trust, we had been engaging and inspiring thousands of young people with sort of hands-on activities and digital education resources, which highlight the sort of wide range of career opportunities in science, technology, engineering and maths, so STEM subjects, particularly in the maritime industry. And we have our online digital platform, STEM Crew, which is our leading sort of education hub, which is full of amazing resources, free for teachers to use and download, all using the context of sailing and other elite sports to kind of inspire young people about STEM. So today I'm just going to talk to you about one of our programs, which is our Maritime Roadshows for Girls, which is a national schools program where we run a multi-activity day full of STEM activities, hands-on STEM activities, as well as sort of an inspiration zone, which is where the girls can meet inspirational female role models who work in STEM and maritime. And I've actually got a video to show you which kind of summarises the event, one of the events that we did in Portsmouth last year. So hopefully I'm going to successfully share my screen and some sound. Share sound. Share screen.
Welcome to the NES team base. It's a pretty cool building, isn't it? I feel very fortunate to be an ambassador for the 1851 Trust. I think sport is a fantastic vehicle for social change, and sailing specifically, because it's such a varied sport, really a sport for life.
We're all here today because today is International Women's Day, so we're celebrating the achievement of women around the world, but particularly focused on women in STEM careers and celebrating the great contribution that they make. They're forecast next year to have 173,000 vacancies in STEM, and we need more women just to fill some of those gaps. Only 22% of the STEM workforce are women. If we got more women, we could fill more of the vacancies.
We've brought 14 girls from year 8. Sometimes you get a bit lost in the teaching world, and it's nice having inspirational women that they can talk to that are actually doing the stuff that they are interested in doing.
It's been really fun and really inspirational, and it's finally made me choose the path I want for when I'm older.
Definitely very inspiring, because it's these women are going and breaking gender stereotypes and going into jobs that are dominated by men and just doing so amazing at them. That's incredible.
The 1851 Trust do a great job in promoting some of the unique STEM careers that we have, and using the technology and the excitement around the America's Cup is a great way of bringing children in to understand some of the careers we have across the UK.
So hopefully that kind of gave you a bit of a flavour of the events that we run. Sorry, something's playing in the background. There we go. We're starting up these our programme of events again in the autumn term for schools. So the events are actually funded, the programme's funded by the Department for Transport and also Trinity House, which allows us to run a programme up and down the country in probably about 10 or 12 different locations. This year we're sort of kicking off with an event in at the Southampton Boat Show, which will be mainly based around the sort of speed networking inspiration zone, so that the girls can meet some female role models in maritime. And we'll also be running another event in Cowes on the Isle of Wight, as well as then kicking off our national programme. And as you saw in the video, the aims of the day are sort of to increase confidence of girls in the opportunities that there are in maritime and STEM, and just to give them the opportunity to learn about, not necessarily to push them down the path, but just open their eyes to the opportunities that are available. And so with that, we are always looking for support from female ambassadors or role models to come to our events, speak to girls about, their experiences and their professional experiences or life experiences in the world of maritime and STEM. I think that's kind of all that I have to say. It's probably best if anyone has any questions to ask away.
Aren't I? Yeah. Any questions, or have we stunned you all into silence? The girls' STEM in Maritime speed networking event at the boat show we're really excited about. So started to get some volunteers already to sit on the other side of the table, and we'll get that confirmed shortly. Just whilst we're talking about the boat show, actually, there is going to be opportunities for school children to be visiting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, boys and girls. And then on Thursday, obviously, we've got this specific event for girls. But if you are a person who's in STEM and you're female and you're in the maritime sector and you'd like to help us by being one of our interviewers for the day, or interviewees, I suppose, actually, speed networking, I guess the idea is more that the youngsters ask the questions, but it works both ways. Yeah.
We sort of give them some prompts because, it can be a bit daunting to sit in front of people and ask, to think of the questions yourselves. So we give them a little card with some prompts on to ask, general questions that they can ask to get the conversation going. But usually it works really well. Some of the women come with something physical to show, as you saw in the video, there were a few robots or pieces of work that they've been working on, which is always a good conversation starter. But usually it works quite well. We split the girls into small groups of 3 or 4, and then they sit with the ambassador or role model for 10 to 15 minutes and have a discussion. And it's always, as you can see from the sort of the girls in the video, they find it really interesting and they're just amazed by opportunities that they didn't even know existed.
Yeah. So, well, we're looking forward to that, aren't we? So we'll make the best of that. But anyone that wants to get in touch with me or to Becci at the Trust and make yourself available for that day, it's going to be on the Thursday, which is the 16th of September, which is obviously also London International Shipping Week, but that's our big thing locally. Becci, that was amazing, thank you. No more questions at the moment, so I'm going to move on, and actually we're sticking a little bit with the STEM message because we're lucky enough to have Laura with us this morning, who's going to talk about the STEMunity project, and she's trying to unmute herself as we speak. I can see. There we go.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Laura Watford. I'm on my work laptop, which is perhaps not as Zoom friendly as my personal laptop. I'm just going to share some slides with you. There we go. Is everyone seeing those slides?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so okay, so I'm Laura Watford. I'm head of science up at Castle View in the north of Portsmouth in Paulsgrove. But I also have another hat, which I'm a specialist leader of education for the city. And I ran a successful STEM network for STEM teachers for about 5 years now through the Royal Academy of Engineering. Can I just quickly see thumbs up if anyone's heard of the Connecting STEM Teachers programme through the Royal Academy? No, okay. So the Connecting STEM Teachers programme is a programme that was established by the Royal Academy nearly 10 years ago now. And basically, it's pretty incredible in its format. So we have over 50 teacher coordinators across the whole country, and each teacher coordinator is provided with high quality curriculum linked STEM resources. New STEM resources are developed every single term, and at the moment the format has moved away from a classroom box of resources and to student packs of resources. So recent packs that we've had were engineering in a pandemic, so there was a brilliant little kit to build a little mask material testing station. All of the activities are curriculum linked. We receive the training through the Royal Academy of Engineering, and also as all practicing teachers or people working in education, we contribute and support the development of their curriculum linked STEM resources. Then we deliver them back to our group in our area. So I've got a network in Portsmouth. We've got approximately 15 teachers that come from across the city and a little bit further sometimes. I do sneak into Hampshire as well. We meet every single term, and every term the teachers get a free set of either a classroom set of STEM resources or student kits. And we also have a Key Stage 2 science network as well. So we had such an uptake and such an interest in the STEM resources as general that we actually split off into two groups. So I held two separate meetings, one for Key Stage 2 and one for secondary Key Stage 3. And I've even had a couple of Key Stage 5 teachers attend. And on that note, I have a meeting on the 5th of July, on Monday the 5th of July, and if anyone would like to come along to that meeting, it's an hour and a half, and it is at the moment virtual, and if you want to come and pitch anything to teachers in the city, any opportunities, then I would welcome that. I can give you a 5 to 10 minute slot because we do prioritise the actual training and discussion time, but I'd love to extend an opportunity for all of you to come along and join our network. You're very welcome. So through that network, a couple of us, as we met together prior to the pandemic, were chatting about the opportunities that we get through the Royal Academy. Every year we had the opportunity to do a collaborative project, and I worked with Holly Leet at Southampton, and we did a collaborative project at the Winchester Science Centre, and so we'd have like several hundred children come for the day. We'd have a speed networking event, we'd have a variety of activities. And we kind of said, that's great, but it's not enough. Like what can we do that gives children opportunities through the year? And so we came across Dr. Margaret Ritchie, who was running a STEM Academy in Scotland. And so it's a university-led programme working with professionals in industry to design activities and opportunities for teachers to work with students. So the beauty of it is trainee teachers would attend the activities with students, complete the activities, and then they had to disseminate what they'd learned or the activities that they'd participated in back to their school communities, because Margaret had identified that actually, you know, in the Highlands of Scotland, it's not as easy to just nip them on a bus and pop them down to the local university. So the STEM network model, she had 3 years. She's an academic researcher, but started her life in education, and she had 3 years of data to show that it had a massive impact on STEM attitudes, a massive positive impact on the STEM attitudes of children. And she also noticed it really increased the confidence of those trainee teachers. It gave them so many underpinning contexts and anecdotes that they could share in their classroom and relate to the curriculum and increase that STEM capital. And so Margaret got together with Jordan and I. So Jordan's based in Sheffield and I'm based in Portsmouth, and we were like, we've both got really similar context to you, Margaret. You know, we're surrounded by STEM industry and opportunities, and then we've got some children that potentially don't always access those opportunities. And so during the pandemic, Margaret sort of got us together and was like, quick, I'm taking STEM Academy online. You can all come to STEM Academy Scotland. So during the pandemic, I circulated all of the details of STEM Academy Scotland to the whole local authority, and we did have some good uptake of students completing it. Margaret's got 9,000 children across the UK who have completed her workshops. So, you know, as an academic, she's got more than enough data to analyse on her STEM attitudes. The format of the workshops is that there's a short introductory video of the STEM professional or academic. They've got a short activity and then a sort of summary of the science or engineering behind the concept that they've just delivered. So she got all of this, and please do have a look at STEM Academy Scotland website. All of that was up online within 4 weeks. I mean, Margaret is literally a superwoman. And so Jordan and I were kind of discussing, how do we apply this model, which, you know, has a good proven track record, so that we can create more opportunities for children in our areas, because Portsmouth and Sheffield, you know, deserve equal opportunities to the students up in Scotland. And so that's what we've spent the last year doing. We have applied for charity status. We are calling ourselves STEMunity, our STEM community nationally, but we are very much focused on our local areas. So Jordan is focusing on South Yorkshire, and I'm focusing on Portsmouth for now, and then I'd like to expand that. And so at the moment, we are developing a pilot workshop in the same format as Margaret. So I've been working with the University of Portsmouth. Andy Smith, the PGCE science course leader, has been an incredible support, along with David Hill, who does outreach, who I'm sure you've all come across. And so they've been great in supporting me in the pilot. We have developed 3 videos with DSTL. They're still being edited, polished, and they were designed in collaboration with trainee teachers, with the input of the university as well. We've got a brilliant scientist who develops fingerprinting techniques for the police. We've got another guy who handles hazardous and toxic substances. So when there's some issue like there was in Salisbury, he's the person they call. He's developing a little activity, and there's another guy developing an activity around autonomous buoys. So we're really, really excited because our videos should be ready and finished. Obviously, they have to go off for DSTL approval and so forth. So we should be ready to launch in September. And our big plan is that we'll have all of these free activities working with STEM industries to develop these videos, and then students can complete the activities, and then we'll award them electronic badges so that they can evidence their work. And as a teacher, I know that we're looking at the moment about how we evidence our Gatsby benchmarks, and that's something that we're anxiously in the back minds. And so we're hoping actually this will provide really, really good evidence for the Gatsby benchmarks. We've also got a couple of other projects up our sleeve. So we're working with Professor David Reed at the University of Southampton to develop. So there's some students from Portsmouth College that are working with him on a podcast series to engage people into how basically chemistry can save the world. And we've also had some brilliant STEM lectures, which I've recorded all of them and put them on our YouTube channel. So if you have a look at STEM Academy South, then you should be able to see that we've got a repertoire of brilliant local STEM professionals. We've got one who, a lady who invented a pirate deterrent system in Portsmouth. And she's absolutely brilliant, and her story is just fantastic. We've got Dr. Julian Mitchell, who talked about COVID and explaining the science behind the vaccinations. We've got Dr. Joe Preston, who talked about the oyster bed restoration in Portsmouth. So we've got a real variety of lectures available. There's a few more. And then some projects that we've been working on at the moment. So we had a STEM themed space escape room, a virtual escape room, which we had 3,000 students from across the UK attend, just from Portsmouth and Sheffield, and that was a great success. And we're looking at doing some more virtual escape rooms and working in collaboration with some organisations. And we've also had huge success with our STEM story time, so working with primary schools to develop STEM activities based around a STEM themed book. So as you can tell, we've been super busy. I've emailed Will a PDF which kind of has an overview of everything that we're trying to achieve. Both Jordan and I are teachers, so we are both grappling with the teacher assessed grades and doing all of those things alongside it, but we're so passionate about this project and we really want it to be successful. I'm quite happy for my details to be passed on, so I'll pop my email address in the chat, and if anyone is interested in developing a video activity with us, then we'd be really excited about exploring that. As we said, we're going to launch the pilot videos in September, and then we're looking to basically expand our repertoire. We've got a couple of exciting companies that want to work with us, including McLaren's, which we're really excited about. So that's me. If there's any questions, then I'm happy to take those.
Thank you, Laura. That was a whistle-stop tour, wasn't it? It's no wonder you're busy. Do you have anyone on the books that you're working with that's looking at STEM in terms of ocean or marine sciences?
Yeah, so I've been sitting on, and that's how actually we met, isn't it, Lorna? I've been sitting on the Maritime workshop, which I didn't manage to attend last time. We are really interested because actually during that session they highlighted how basically there's a huge skill shortage in Portsmouth. So we haven't got anyone yet, but we are open to people approaching us to develop a workshop.
Okay, I was just thinking we've got World Oceans Day coming up, and with my other hat on, with my Maritime UK careers and outreach work, we're looking at doing a bit of promotion around World Oceans Day. I hope I haven't just stolen your thunder, Nigel. I'm coming to you next on the 8th of June, but it would be really good to link the STEM, the science, and clean oceans and so on for that. Anyway, I'll give that thought. I've been doing a bit of work with the National, I can't even say this word, Oceanography Centre, and I'm gathering some interviews with people there, just to add again to the careers resources, really 5 questions in 5 minutes. So but I did meet a young lady yesterday who is doing a PhD in wave behaviour, actually. Italian, came to study at Bangor University and is now what she described as sitting with the knock while she does her PhD. She might be someone I can link up with you, actually.
That'd be great. The video activities take quite a while in development because we facilitate like sessions working with the teachers at the university and the course leaders at the university, and that's probably a 6-month process. However, for a quick win, we did have Emily from the Wildlife Foundation, who did a great little video for us of basically, she's a marine biologist, she works for the Wildlife Trust. We put it on our YouTube channel, and she just created a short video on basically how she got into her career. She has a great bit of footage on the beach, on the mud flats, and she's like, this is the other bit of my office. Day to day, this is what my job looks like. She did a great job of that. So actually, if you had someone like that, then I'd be happy to, if they support them in creating a short careers link video like that, then that'd be a quick win that we could circulate to schools and teachers to use for careers events.
Yeah, and maybe I could be promoting that video as well with Emily as part of that work. Super. Anyone else got any questions? It's just me asking the questions this morning. Honestly, I never know when to shut up. But that was absolutely fascinating. I know you've got to drop out of the meeting again, haven't you? Because you've got to go back to your to the day job. But so if any of us can support Laura with that work locally, and it looks like nationally, in fact, we'll make sure that your PDF is circulated with the notes after the meeting and your contact details. And you and I are due a catch up, so we must get that in the diary. But I'm coming in on the 5th of July anyway, aren't I? I'm coming to your next meeting. Super.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if anyone wanted to get in, I mean, if anyone was based somewhere else and wanted to get into a different TC's teacher coordinators meeting, then I'm sure that we could arrange that. They're all very friendly. So if you'd like to get into the Portsmouth meeting, or obviously my colleague in Southampton or across the UK, then just let us know and we can. I'm sure we can make that happen. Especially
absolutely
with remote.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And the big shocker is that we're running exactly to time, and this doesn't normally happen for us, certainly not in a networking meeting. But our next speaker is Nigel George, who is new to this group and works for an organisation called ARC Consulting. And I'm not going to steal any more of your thunder, Nigel, so it's over to you. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Lorna, very much for inviting us to introduce ourselves. It's a great opportunity for us. So we are a small organisation called ARC. There we are. That's it. ARC Biodiversity and Climate. I work in the R&D side of things here, and which we call art ecology. And I suppose you could say that we put the STEAM into STEM, because art and science are the key to really what art ecology does. We work a lot in the marine environment. In fact, our original project with ecological engineering began in the marine setting, particularly or specifically in the intertidal zone. And so we make objects, and you can see some of these things dotted around. We make things that go into developments, more or less anywhere in the built environment that enhance nature in one way or another. The important thing is that we use design to connect to people as well. And that's where the art and science really come together to create art ecology. And as I say, art ecology is the research and development department of ARC. So the story really goes that I used to run an arts collective. Ian Boyd, who's a fellow director at ARC, is an ecological consultant. We wound up next door to each other here in Sandown Bay in the Isle of Wight World Biosphere Reserve, right on the beach. So I could literally sort of throw a pebble into the sea where we're based here. And Ian came to me with a question, and that question was, with the prospect of sea level rise and more hard sea defences going up around the world, what could we do? Is it possible to create a vertical intertidal habitat? So as we lose this horizontal plane of habitat, intertidal zone, and all of that amazing species richness that is in that space, is it possible, over the years this gets shorter and shorter, is it possible to have some of that habitat migrate to the vertical plane of hard sea defences? And to me, as from an artistic background, I have got a background in zoology as well, that was a sculptural solution, or there was a sculptural element to how we might solve that problem. And we came up with an installation we called a vertical. Now, when we started this project with verticals, I think it's true to say that we never intended a vertical to become a product, but it has, and that's really happened by demand rather than us, having a business head on that particular idea. So we designed and we built this sculptural element that we call the vertical. It was tested, this is back in 2013, it was tested with the help of Bournemouth University, a PhD student called Alice Hall, now Dr. Alice Hall. And they worked. Basically, they populated in some places actually more effectively than the actual rock pools in the intertidal zone. So we were really surprised at how well they worked. And the answer to Ian's original question, is it possible to create vertical intertidal habitat for wildlife? We now know that the answer is yes. I'm not walking away here. If I disappear out shot, I'm just going to pick up a small vertical to show you. This is a small, the smallest model of vertical that we make. If I move back a bit, you can see. So it's very simple. It's a concrete basin that has lots of texture, pattern, and form. And this is all there for a good reason. The intertidal life loves to, things like barnacles and limpets and mollusks, etc., will find their way into here and take up residence, as well as, of course, all the algae and seaweeds that you'd expect or hope to find. The interior is also, in the same way, decorated with texture, form, and pattern, because one of the things that we've learned on this journey is that those things are crucially important. So we use an unusual, this is made from a low carbon concrete, by the way, and it's designed to fit onto sea defences, onto existing sea defences as a kind of retrofit solution. Has these stainless steel brackets, you can see, and into the pool is an armature that runs inside and that holds it in place. And we can install these in arrays onto sea defences, and they work. It's quite extraordinary how the ecological uplift is incredibly effective. And so since we started our project, obviously, organisations like the Environment Agency, Natural England, Natural Resources Wales have got interested in what we're doing and have started to lean on developers to come to us to purchase these products from us to put into their own sea defence developments, etc. Now, we don't just work in the marine environment. The principles of our ecology seem to work as well terrestrially as they do in the marine environment. So we're taking, we're sort of spreading our wings, and we're moving into towns and cities as well. I think there are a handful of organisations in the world that are doing what we do. We know them all. They're spread around from so Australia to Israel and other places. What I think separates us from them all, and say we're not really competing. It's a huge market share on what we're doing, and there's a big world to try and make more biodiverse. What I think is different is our delivery framework. We connect to stakeholders. So when we make an object, these are little nature bricks. When we make an object, the idea is primarily, obviously, that this is to go into a wall. It can be inhabited by plants or animals, but equally, it's designed to connect to people as well. And that's the crucially important part from our point of view. We can do these things quietly and enhance nature. That's one thing, but the other thing is by design to make those things connectable to the communities in which they're put. And so we work a lot with schools. We're working with about 7 universities at the moment. We work with children, as young as reception year, right the way through to higher education and further education. And we try to tie those communities into, if we can, every project we do. It's not always easy because we're self-funded. We're a small organisation. We're a small business, but we sort of lean on our clients through their own ESG targets, environmental social governance, to do the right thing and to work with us to connect to those stakeholders. And it's beginning to work. We've got a strange mix of clients who come to us from big investment management organizations to, you know, to small individuals. And I think we've noticed that I would say in the last 18 months, we were definitely out on the fringe doing this kind of work. But I think COVID has had an impact on the way people think about the natural world. There's a much clearer understanding about the problem of biodiversity loss specifically, and of course climate change, and the two are, you know, linked together. And so where doors were difficult for us to open previously, they now seem to be open before we even get there. What's interesting is the Solent region is way ahead of the game with this particular kind of work. There are lots of universities, Portsmouth, Southampton, Bournemouth, all working on this stuff. And the Solent is in a prime position to really take hold of this, you know, this eco-engineering agenda and run with it. We're an extraordinary place, I think. The Isle of Wight, as I said, is a UNESCO World Biosphere Reserve. We've got the New Forest as a national park. We've got the alphabet soup of designations that is the Solent, and we are able to build these things, test these things, and prove that they work right here, you know, on the Solent doorstep. So we're really keen to push this further, and we're working, as I say, with various universities. We've got the Cluster for Sustainable Cities in Portsmouth, Portsmouth University, which is we're members of that, and also the gosh, I can't remember the name. The blue, I can't remember the name. It's also running out of Portsmouth University. That I can make sure you get the name of that, because it's worth joining up to. So that's it really. I think that sort of covers everything to do with art ecology anyway. There's a lot more to it. Hop over to our website at artecology.space if you want to find out more.
Nigel, that was fascinating. But then when I met the two of you a few weeks ago, my mind was blown that day, really. So there's a couple of questions in the chat. So yeah, if I can just pass them on to you, and then if I can ask you, well, my question would be, what can we do to help you? So we've got some education partners that have been in the meeting today, but obviously it's almost all industry. So as a group, as a community, we need to know what we can do to help you. So I'll let you come back to that one. Okay. There's a couple of specific questions. So Phil Buckley has said, very interesting, are you hooked up with the Solent Oyster project? And the second question is, how long does a concrete pool or brick last on a sea defence wall?
That's a really good, well, both really good questions. So the Oyster projects, yes, sort of. Through the universities, obviously, we're connected to a lot of things, and Ian, my colleague, I think, is making some inroads with the Oyster projects. So in terms of longevity, well, that is a good question, because I can't say that they'll last for 50 years, but what I do know is the oldest ones we put out in 2013 are still there. We didn't expect them to last that long, because they weren't made in the way that we're making them now. They weren't over-engineered in the way that they are now. So the original vertipools were made for high impact sea. And so they're not that shape that I showed you. They've got a keel on the front and lots of different sort of faces to deflect and absorb energy and kind of push it around. So we can't sort of make any wild claims. All I can say is that as the team here, we over-engineer everything. All the fixings are these 16 mil stainless steel, marine grade stainless steel fixings that are resin mortared into the sea walls, etc., etc. So we try to sort of make sure, kind of think of any scenario and try and make sure that that they'll stay on there. I have to say though, as I said right at the beginning, retrofit was never really the plan. I think, you know, this was our way of testing things. It's just that they caught on and they became a product by demand. We've got various projects in R&D at the moment, and one of them is to solve the problem of how you get this level of ecological enhancement into existing seawalls, but not as a retrofit solution. And we're working on that right now. We think we've got some answers. So, but you know, progress is not as fast as we'd like, because we're not a huge organisation with massive resources. So we have to sort of, you know, do it as we can afford to.
Yeah, another example of where the Solent's ahead of the curve, as you said. So super. The other question, there's a question from Simon Morris that says, are art connected in any way with Eco Concrete, who design bio-friendly marine structures?
No, we're not. So that's the Israeli company that I mentioned. E-Concrete are probably the biggest sort of the biggest business really that are working in similar fields. There's lots of crossover. We know them well. We speak to them from time to time, and we would certainly, you know, if they have a product that is, you know, it's already done, there's no point in us sort of reinventing the wheel. So we would advise our clients to go to them if they, you know, if they need a particular product that we're not, you know, that we don't do. There's also Design Reef down in Australia. Alex Go does the most beautiful panels. That, you know, very similar principle of art and science working together there too. And we would certainly recommend them. In fact, we're hoping to become the UK manufacturer for his panels, because we really like them.
Nigel, I just wanted to say, it's Becci here from the 1851 Trust. We're based in Portsmouth, but we're, as well as our online STEM hub, we're also building a sustainability hub, sort of working on cleaner, greener maritime educational resources.
Fantastic.
It's got a partnership with European Marine Energy Centre and P-Tech on the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
So we're doing a couple of projects with them where we're going to be creating some educational resources around their projects. And we're always looking for cool, like, you know, climate related, sustainability related, renewable energy related projects. So it would be quite good to connect just to see if there's any.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, you know, it's right up our street. We've signed ourselves up to our own, you know, manifesto, which is shaping better places. That's the framework by which we deliver all of our projects, and it's a 9-point framework, and it is really about people. You know, although our job here is to try and you know, solve some of the problems that are happening because of climate change, and specifically biodiversity loss, which is the big one. Biodiversity loss will get us long before climate change does. We must connect to people, and particularly children, schools, students through this work.
We are actually doing a resource on biodiversity and invasive species coming up.
Fantastic.
Great.
Yeah, no, well, let's talk. Yeah.
Brilliant. Now I've got one other question, which if I could ask you, Nigel, just to answer really quickly, because we're a little bit behind time now. It's not from me. This one's not from me. This is from Rosie from Maritime Digital Hub. Nigel, great presentation, thank you. Have you considered using any other materials, as obviously concrete is very water and energy intensive? For example, we're seeing compressed laminated timber being utilised more widely in city projects. This is probably not feasible in seawall structures. So are you looking at different materials?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see behind me this thing here is called a biototem. That's timber. That's for solitary bees, and it's a way marker that, you know, you can go out in public places. We use these a lot for our projects, but it will populate with solitary bees, which are completely harmless. The cement we use is a reduced carbon cement. And it's a natural cement, so it's not ordinary Portland. It has a much smaller carbon footprint than than ordinary Portland cement. But we are working with all sorts of, from, you know, steels and recycled materials. You know, material science plays a big part in what we do. It's just that when you're working in the, you know, the built environment where bricks and concrete and steel are the things that everybody's used to, you tend to have to work with those materials to start with. We're very keen to wean ourselves and that world off of those as and when, you know, we're able to. It's just you're up against, you know, coastal engineers who, you know, who obviously don't want us messing around with their seawalls in a way that's going to be, you know, detrimental to the integrity of those seawalls. So we have to use fairly standard materials that everyone understands at the moment, but we're hoping to change that. I mean, look, this is ceramic knitting. It's, you know, that is a crafted knitting dipped in a slip and then fired. What can you do with ceramic knitting? We don't know yet, but we know it's important. So, you know, we're playing with materials all the time. Folded paper, really important for us. That's, you know, for squeezing big spaces into small places. We're playing with materials all the time.
Fantastic. Becci, from the 1851 Trust, you and I, we can do a lot with this, can't we? So in the careers programme, I just love the way you were playing with that thing as if it was an accordion. Got a soft spot for accordions. Yeah. And my final question, and just, yeah, thank you, you made my day now. And who knew that any of us would hear the phrase ceramic knitting this morning? There you are. If you take nothing away from today's meeting. Yeah. My final question, and I will have to move on, sorry, yeah. But I said, what can we do for you? So what can Maritime UK Solent do to support what you guys are doing?
Well, I mean, the main thing is your ideas are really important to us, because, you know, we have limited resources, and you know, therefore maybe we're not as proactive as we should be with making connections. We're collaborators by default. Art and science, you know, that is a collaboration right there. My background in the arts, I'm very used to collaborating. So I want to hear about stuff, and then, you know, conversations, as you know, Lorna, that, you know, it just takes a conversation, doesn't it? And then boom, off you go, you know. So, you know, get in contact with us and let's talk. That's the thing you can do. And because I think it nearly always leads to something. The other thing is, you know, we need to grow. So we are looking for investment. If anybody knows, you know, of any routes that we can take to grow, we're just not big enough, essentially. You know, we're under-resourced in almost every way. People, you know, equipment, money, etc. We do a lot with the, you know, the small amount of stuff that we've got, but we could be doing a lot more. And I think that is really our next step, is to grow.
Okay, well, a fascinating presentation. In fact, all the presentations this morning have been terrific. We're not done yet, but Nigel, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thanks so much for giving us the opportunity, Lorna, and Will as well. Thanks.
We'll share your contact details with the email that comes out after.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, we've got John with us now from Griffon Hoverwork. John, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, absolutely. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. John Despard. I'm the area sales manager for Griffon Hovercraft for Europe and the Middle East. What I've done is I've got a few slides to show you, hopefully, if I share my screen. Can you see that?
We can, thank you.
That's great, okay. Probably might be better. There we go. So, Griffon. So we're part of a group of companies that are owned by the Bland Group. The Bland Group is a family concern originating out of Gibraltar. They used to own Gibraltar Airways, which they sold, I think, probably about 15 years ago now. And then they've diversified into various sort of aspects of the travel and sort of holiday industry. So as you can imagine, sort of interesting times the last couple of years. So Griffon's part of that, as is Hover Travel, which runs, I'm sure you all know, runs the service between Southsea and Ryde on the Isle of Wight. We're based in Woolston, just by the Itchen Bridge, and we've got about, well, over 100,000 square feet of manufacturing facilities, our sort of HQ office, and then outside areas with slipways for the Hovercraft. And we do all our sort of testing, craft testing on a specific area of Southampton Water. It's sort of fairly unique sort of hovercraft as a concept. I'm sure you're aware, but just a quick resume of how they started. They were invented in 1954 by an avid inventor called Sir Christopher Cockerell, and he actually lived on the Isle of Wight in his later years, and he developed the concept, which culminated in the cross-channel hovercraft service, which went between Dover and Calais and Ramsgate and Boulogne. And that service went on until about 2000. And those craft could take 50 cars and 400 passengers. And they'd cross the channel in half an hour, doing 65 knots, so quite fast. But as you can imagine, the Eurotunnel rather put paid to that service, and the craft were very expensive to run, so that stopped. Griffon itself was founded in 1976, and they developed a series of sort of different size craft, and the market was primarily then at that stage coast guards and military amphibious forces. And then in 2008-9, the Bland Group took over and it became Griffon Hoverwork. And Bland have supported the company throughout in developing the hovercraft and different sizes of hovercraft, and culminating actually in our latest one, which is technologically the most advanced hovercraft in the world. It's an electric diesel. And you can probably see it's this one on the right. It's a 8.5 meter hovercraft, and it'll take eight passengers. So here you can see the sort of different sizes that we do. So the smallest one is 6.7 meters, and that's the role for that one is primarily search and rescue. And so you've got organisations like the RNLI, Avon, Fire and Rescue, they use them. And then it goes up, you've got the latest one, the 995. The most popular range is probably the 2000 series and the 8000 series, and they are used by coast guards primarily, the military. The Royal Marines use the 2400 there. And then you go up to the 12,000, which is also fairly new, and that's the newest craft that is used on the Solent crossing. And then you've got the big sort of 30-meter hovercraft, which are used for logistics and can carry sort of over 100 passengers. So, so here you can see, digging up the road, it's handy. So here you can see over the years, we've developed quite a sort of global reach for the craft. So we've got about 185 craft now operating in 43 countries around the world. And they are all the sort of uses are search and rescue, coast guard, and amphibious. And then one or two sort of ferry services. The main ferry service is in fact Solent crossing. So you might sort of wonder, so you get asked, well, why do you use a hovercraft? So one of the advantages of a hovercraft is that unlike boats, a hovercraft literally flies across the surface of the water, and it also can fly across land as well. So you don't have the issues of damage to the hull, damage to props that you get with boats, from sort of nets, ropes, all sort of flotsam that you get in particularly disaster situations. The other advantage is, of course, that unlike a boat, a hovercraft can go over shallows. It can go over reefs, mud flats, sandbanks, over ice. We've got a hovercraft that's been doing survey work up in the Arctic. And actually, it was on a survey expedition for 18 months, where 2 people lived aboard the craft for 18 months, which is quite something. So sort of from an environmental perspective, the other advantage is that because they fly over the land, you don't get the damage that is caused by cars and even people walking through muds and sensitive areas. So the pressure on the ground is only about 0.3 psi. So a hovercraft can go over sensitive areas and leave virtually no imprint on the surface at all, which is quite unique. And then obviously, because it can go over shallows, and it can essentially go where boats can't go, you can get from A to B a lot faster than a boat could. And that has a bearing on whether it happens to be a search and rescue situation or a military one. So as I've mentioned, there are various uses that our customers put the craft to. Disaster response, all the sort of, you can imagine in the sort of Far East with the sort of tornadoes and tsunamis and things like that. It's very, very difficult to operate boats in that sort of environment. And you'll often see helicopters and other craft being used in those situations. But a hovercraft can basically fly over a lot of the sort of damaged water, interrupted water, to get to an emergency situation with relief. And that follows on search and rescue. Counterinsurgency and security, that's a big area for our customers. I'll go on to that. Ferry services, the Solent crossing you're all aware of, and then, as I mentioned, Coast Guards. So from a disaster response, because we produce various sizes, we can accommodate all sorts of different sort of payloads. So whether it's vehicles, it's sort of passengers, it's food relief, medical assistance. The craft you put to all those sorts of purposes. So they're very, very flexible, very fast, and as I say, they can go where boats can't. This is a picture of the hovercraft, which is at Changi Airport in Singapore, and it's a crash rescue craft with a fire hose on it. And as you can see there on the ramp, you can launch life rafts in any sort of crash situation for the aircraft. Counterinsurgency in South America, in Peru, Colombia, for example, the military use the craft there to counter the narcotics trade. And they use quite a number of those craft for trying to sort of counter all that sort of business. and you can see on the right there, they're used on the rivers as opposed to the coast, which are very difficult. It's very difficult to use boats on, and you can go ashore very easily. We use an awful lot in those situations. The craft use a lot of ballistic protection, as you'd expect, to protect the crew. And then you've got in the Solent, you've got the ferry service. So this is the latest craft, and it takes about 85 passengers. And through the COVID situation, we've adapted it so we can take COVID patients and frankly any other emergency cases very quickly from Ryde over to Southsea, so they can get to hospital. So just on the Solent there, as an example of speed needs, the ferries, as you know, probably take half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, and the crossing with the hovercraft is just 10 minutes. So from a commuter perspective, that's quite convenient. And then lastly, the Coast Guard services. So we've got customers, excuse me, all around the Baltics. So in Scandinavia, the Baltic states, and Poland, they use our craft for, particularly in the winter, because when the Baltic freezes, they can't use boats. And an awful lot of the, funny enough, a lot of the fishermen go out, you've probably seen it on TV, they go out and drill holes in the water, in the ice rather, and go fishing. And then they're so sort of keen, they go on into the spring when the ice gets a little bit weak, and so they're constantly having to go out and rescue these people, and the only way they can do it is using a hovercraft. So part of our business then is not just the sort of manufacture of hovercraft, but we advise on bases and how to keep them. Unlike boats, you don't need the logistics that you require with boats, because you just run it up onto a beach, put a rough shelter up, and you can service them very easily from there. So that makes it a lot cheaper to operate than possibly boats. And then we give commissioning support. So we have a team of people that commission the craft either here in Woolston, or we'll send them around the world to commission them in country. And that's a dedicated team, and we do through life support for the craft. So an average life of the craft is probably around 20 years. So it's quite a sort of long-standing sort of business and support service we provide. And then of course we do pilot training. So people who drive or fly these craft are known as pilots, and so we provide that service obviously. And then mechanical engineering training we provide for the customers. Again, that's done here and in country. And then a big, as you can imagine, a big part of the business is after sales and selling spares. So that increasingly, and particularly through COVID, has become quite a large part of the business, because you know, as you can imagine, international travel is very important for us, and that's been restricted, obviously. So after sales have taken the lead to some degree for the moment, but hopefully that'll change. And then we have in the HQ office, we have a big design team who are constantly looking at more sort of eco-friendly designs for the craft, hence the electric diesel craft, which is the newest one. I don't know if we're running out of time, but I've got, there's a video.
We are, I'm ever so sorry, John. We are running out of time because
I'm sort of rambling on.
Well, no, and it's really interesting. I had no idea that it was used on the frozen Baltic, as you described, actually. To me, it's just fascinating. It's fantastic. That's why I love these meetings so much. We've got one more speaker. Yeah. So, and we've got to finish at 10:30. So I'm kind of conscious that perhaps if we could, we're recording the meeting, but if we could have a link to the video and we'll send it out in the email afterwards, if that's okay.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
And everyone's, if anyone's got any specific questions that you want us to pass on to John, we will do that. I see there's one in the chat about a cross Solent commuter service. We haven't got time to answer that at the moment, Lucy. I'm really sorry, but we will get an answer for you. Just really quickly, I've got some Maritime UK updates as well, but we'll send those out in the after meeting follow-up. To save time. So I just want to hand over to Sara from Gosport and Fareham Multi-Academy Trust, who's our last live speaker for today. Sorry, Sara, it's my fault for saying we were running to time, and I need to learn not to say that, but the floor is yours.
Fine, I'll hand over to Luke, I think he's going to share the charts.
Thank you. Sorry. Just while I share that at the same time, just to say good morning, everyone. I'm conscious of the time. I was just going to spend a few minutes. We're from Gosport and Fareham Multi-Academy Trust. That includes, some of you may well be familiar with Bay House, Broom Park, Rowner and Gomer as well. A couple of interesting things to update you on this morning, we hope. One of them is about the massive push that we've had on personal development and really using the employability skills through the Skills Builder network that some of you may be familiar with. And we've sort of named those as Gosport Futures, but they're exactly the same things, and we're pushing them through clubs, through lessons, and through the Unifrog platform, which enables us to be able to sort of track, and pupils to be able to track exactly what it is that they're working on during their lessons, and how they're developing their skills ready for the employment market afterwards. Hopefully very shortly the slides will appear. Can you see that now? Brilliant. And here are the softer skills that I was talking about then. So speaking, listening, creativity, problem solving, aiming high, staying positive, teamwork, and leadership. Now, I know nothing here is going to be revolutionary, and they're all words that we're familiar with all the time, but we've really been trying to work with learners about using the same language all the time and how we can promote them in everything that we're doing, whether that be reporting home or whether it be at clubs, or whether it be in their lessons, and so on. So very, very quickly from me, I'll hand over to Sara to talk a little bit more about some of the maritime developments.
Can you go on to the next one? Lovely. As Nigel said in his talk earlier, we live in an extraordinary place, and I think, can you go back one, Luke? Sorry. And I think we haven't in Gosport been taking enough advantage and being as aware as we should have been of our surroundings. We're probably at Bay House, one of the few schools in the country that can literally walk out of the back gate and onto the beach. But sadly, we've got students in Broom Park School, which is only 1.5 miles up the road, who've never actually been to that beach. And it was something that we really wanted to bring into the students' life, was the sea that is all around them, but also the opportunities that is there in the marine and maritime industry. And you're all evidence of that huge opportunity, which is right on our doorstep, and which I think we have all been guilty of not making our students aware of. So basically our task with the Careers Centre is to raise awareness of the opportunity, but also to make sure that we are actually building the skills, and Luke mentioned the soft skills, but we also talking about hard skills as well, which means that we are producing a pipeline of people who are ready to work in the marine and maritime industries around us. So we're introducing relevant qualifications, which I'll highlight in a minute, and we're also weaving the marine and maritime themes throughout the curriculum. So students will have access to people talking to them, to activities in everything that they do, which brings the maritime into their everyday life. Engaging very closely with employers, collaboration in identifying the skills needed, and we've been working, for example, with Portsmouth Harbour Marine, looking at their skills survey and the sorts of things that their members are telling them, but also with the wider Solent LEP on the skills required in the wider region. Practical projects and topics, so we have a marine curriculum, a maritime curriculum, particularly around STEM. So Year 7, for example, are working later in the year on a boat building project where they'll start to learn about the the mechanics around that, but across the school we have a number of projects with a maritime theme, aligning industry partners with heads of departments. So we're talking about having people from industry coming in, working with us as we build those curriculum topics, so that we're talking about the right things, and also workplace experience. So having access to workplaces, but also having employers bringing workplaces into school, which is particularly important at the moment where workplaces are also difficult to get into, but just basically beginning to really open up students' eyes to what's around them, but also getting pupils on the water. So we're sailing with the Portsmouth Sailing Trust. We're starting up with kayaking and paddleboarding, because if you don't build that love of water in from an early age, then trying to get somebody enthused about water at 15 or 16 just isn't going to happen. So this is very much about how do we get everybody on the water to start building that love of what's around us. And we're building, as you can see, a brand new marine centre on the Bay House site, which is, as I say, with a gate which opens onto the beach, and that will be classrooms but also practical space. And Luke, next one, thank you. And from September, we're starting on actual qualifications. So we'll start with a level 3 extended diploma, which we're doing in conjunction with the Andrew Simpson Centres. So that's really around marine employment, water sports and teaching and coaching, and obviously the leisure industry in general. So that's a 2-year course, full-time, which gives them all of the information that they're going to need, and the qualifications they're going to need, the RYA, the sport boat type stuff, in order to get into the industry, and also a level 2 award in maritime studies, which is a more practical, hands-on boat handling, repairs and maintenance, basic engineering type stuff for the 14s. And the intent is to move them then into further qualifications, particularly around the much more practical things. And we talked earlier about with the Viking stuff around the work boating and those sorts of things, which I think are going to be growing areas for us to be looking at. So really, we had little time, but I just wanted to say that we are very keen. We've got a great network of employers, but we always need more. So very keen to work with anybody who's interested in showcasing themselves, allowing our students to see what they're up to, helping with lesson projects, helping with giving people access to their workplaces. So really anybody at all who wants to work with us in this really exciting development for the area, I'm more than happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone for coming along. We'll be in contact in the next few days with a mail out about all of our speakers, and we can get in contact with them. And the next meeting will be in the 23rd of June, and we'll send out details on how to join. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.